Procrastination isn't just a habit. It's a powerful force that quietly erodes dreams, ambition, and self-worth. To transform your life and move from procrastination to success, the first and most critical step is to recognize its root cause. Procrastination is not laziness. It's not a character flaw. It's a psychological coping mechanism often driven by fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough, or even fear of succeeding and not knowing how to handle the responsibility that follows. This fear paralyzes action, disguising itself as avoidance, distractions, or over-planning. The task that feels overwhelming becomes a mirror reflecting your doubts, so your brain instinctively seeks refuge in comfort. Scrolling endlessly, watching videos, daydreaming about success instead of building it. When you acknowledge that procrastination is rooted in emotion, not time management, you shift from blaming yourself to understanding yourself. You begin to see that your inaction isn't due to a lack of discipline, but an internal conflict between who you are now and who you want to become. That inner resistance often comes from limiting beliefs planted by past failures, criticism, or the pressure of perfection. You think, what if I try and still fail? So you don't try at all. Or you wait for the perfect time, the perfect mood, the perfect plan, none of which ever arrive. This cycle repeats until procrastination becomes your identity, and potential remains just a possibility, never reality. Recognizing this pattern is like turning on a light in a dark room. You see the fear for what it is, a barrier, not a dead end. Once it's exposed, it begins to lose power. Awareness is a weapon. When you notice that you're delaying a task, ask yourself why. What feeling are you trying to avoid? Is it discomfort? Self-doubt? Uncertainty? Facing the answer is uncomfortable, but that's where transformation begins. You don't break free from procrastination by fighting it head-on, but by understanding it, by confronting the stories you've been telling yourself about why you can't act. Every moment of delay is a decision. Once you realize that, you reclaim your power. This kind of radical self-honesty forces growth. You stop outsourcing blame and start taking responsibility. Not in a way that punishes you, but in a way that empowers you. You realize that fear is normal, but submission to it is optional. You're not a victim of procrastination. You're its creator, which means you can dismantle it. This isn't just mindset talk. It's a truth that has transformed lives. High achievers aren't fearless. They've just trained themselves to act despite the fear. They've learned to interpret procrastination as a signal, not a sentence. A signal to lean in, to look deeper, and to step forward, not back. If you can recognize the root of your procrastination and face it with courage, you've already taken the first step toward the success you were meant for. Success isn't something you stumble into. It's something you define, pursue, and build with intention. That journey begins with setting clear, purpose-driven goals. Without clarity, you drift. Without purpose, you quit. Most people procrastinate or fail not because they lack ability, but because they lack direction. They wake up each day reacting to life instead of creating it. They chase vague desires. I want to be successful. I want to be happy, without understanding what that looks like for them. Success has no universal blueprint. It's personal. What drives one person might mean nothing to another. That's why you must dig deep and ask yourself, what do I want and why? This isn't about setting goals for approval, money, or status. This is about setting goals that ignite something in your soul, goals that align with your values, your passions, and your potential. When your goals are rooted in purpose, they stop feeling like obligations and start feeling like missions. Purpose gives your goals weight. It fuels your effort when motivation fades. Without it, goals become empty checklists that you either abandon or achieve without fulfillment. But when your goals are tied to something greater than comfort or ego, when they represent who you're becoming, they generate power. That power turns into clarity. And clarity is what cuts through the fog of indecision and distraction. When you know exactly what you're working toward and why, it becomes easy to say no to the things that don't matter. You stop wasting energy on meaningless tasks. You stop comparing your path to someone else's. You stop waiting for perfect timing. You start executing. Setting a clear goal means being specific. Don't just say, I want to be rich or I want to be in shape. Say, I want to build a 6-figure business helping people with X by the end of this year. Or, I want to lose 30 pounds and run a half marathon in 6 months. The more specific you are, the more real your goal becomes. Vague goals create vague results. Specific goals create focused action. But specificity is enough. Your goals must also be measurable, realistic, and time-bound so you can track progress, adjust as needed, and hold yourself accountable. The point isn't to box yourself in. It's to give yourself a clear target to hit, because you can't hit what you can't see. More importantly, your goals must inspire you. They must challenge you. They must feel big enough to stretch you, but not so far that they paralyze you. A goal that doesn't scare you a little isn't worthy of your potential. When you set a purpose-driven goal, you're not just deciding what you want to achieve. You're deciding who you want to become in the process. Every step forward is a step away from the person who procrastinates and toward the person who executes with clarity and conviction. This shift in mindset changes everything. You begin living intentionally, no longer reacting to circumstances, but shaping them. You begin to act with focus, not out of obligation, but from alignment with your deepest why. That's how goals stop being wishes and start becoming reality. One of the most crippling traps on the road to success is the overwhelming weight of a massive goal. It's easy to feel paralyzed when you're staring at a mountain, unsure where or how to begin climbing. That's where the power of breaking big tasks into actionable steps becomes your greatest weapon. When you chunk a large vision into small, tangible actions, you replace paralysis with progress. You shift from thinking to doing. You stop being overwhelmed by the entire journey and start moving forward one clear, manageable step at a time. Success isn't built overnight, it's constructed brick by brick, action by action, moment by moment. And every giant transformation begins with a simple decision to act on what's in front of you today. The truth is, your brain is hardwired to resist large, undefined challenges. It sees them as threats, as sources of potential failure, and it triggers stress, anxiety, and avoidance. But the moment you break that intimidating task into a bite-sized action, you give your brain something it can handle. It's the difference between saying write a book and saying write the first paragraph of the introduction. One feels impossible. The other feels doable. And that feeling of doable is what gets you started. Starting is everything. Because once you begin, momentum takes over. Small wins build confidence, and confidence fuels continued action. You stop questioning your ability and start proving it. You stop waiting for motivation and start building it through movement. Every big goal you've ever admired, from someone starting a business to someone transforming their body, was accomplished by someone who understood how to break the goal into micro tasks and relentlessly execute them. They didn't wait for the perfect plan. They didn't sit around visualizing the result without laying the foundation. They mapped the path forward in chunks and committed to progress over perfection. This mindset destroys procrastination because it gives you clarity. You no longer ask, "Where do I begin?" You know exactly what your next move is. And that clarity transforms pressure into purpose. Most people never reach their goals, not because they lack the dream, but because they never reduce it to a process. They look at the top of the staircase, feel defeated and retreat. But the achievers, the ones who change their lives, look for the first step and take it without hesitation. Then the next. Then the next. They understand that every big goal is just a series of small, consistent, disciplined actions stacked over time. It's not about doing everything today. It's about doing the right thing right now. That's how you build momentum. That's how you build belief. That's how you build success from the ground up. When you master the art of breaking things down and taking immediate action, you no longer wait for change. You become the change. You don't just dream of a better life. You create it, one focused step at a time. Motivation may get you started, but it is discipline that keeps you going. This truth separates those who dabble from those who dominate. A discipline-first mindset means you no longer rely on feelings to determine your actions. You stop asking, "Do I feel like it today?" and start declaring, "This gets done no matter what." That mindset shift is the birthplace of transformation. Motivation is emotional. It rises and falls. It's fleeting, unreliable, and often absent when you need it most. But discipline is a decision. It's a commitment to act in alignment with your goals, regardless of how you feel in the moment. When you build your life around discipline, you stop waiting and start producing. You eliminate excuses, and you replace wishful thinking with purposeful execution. Building discipline isn't about being rigid or robotic. It's about becoming unshakable in your standards. It's about showing up even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one's watching. That's where true growth happens, not in comfort, but in consistency. The difference between the life you want and the life you have is often found in your daily routine. Are you living by default or by design? Are you letting the day control you, or are you commanding the day with intention and structure? A disciplined person wakes up with purpose. They know what needs to be done, and they do it, not because they feel inspired every morning, but because they've trained themselves to honor their commitments. They don't let emotions hijack their progress. They lead themselves through resistance. Creating a discipline-first mindset means mastering the little things. It's waking up at the time you said you would. It's showing up at the gym even when you're tired. It's working on your craft when distractions are pulling at you. Every time you follow through on a promise you made to yourself, you strengthen your identity. You reinforce the belief that you are someone who follows through, someone who finishes what they start, someone who doesn't quit just because it's uncomfortable. That internal reputation matters more than any external validation. Because once you believe in your ability to act with discipline, nothing can stop you. Discipline also builds trust with yourself, and that trust becomes a foundation for unstoppable momentum. When you know you can rely on yourself to do what needs to be done, procrastination loses its power. Laziness becomes irrelevant. You're no longer controlled by the ups and downs of life. You rise above them. You execute regardless of circumstances. That's where real freedom lives. Not in doing whatever you feel like, but in becoming the kind of person who does what is necessary to win. Discipline isn't glamorous. It doesn't always look exciting, but it delivers results. And the results compound. When you live with discipline, you stop negotiating with your goals. You stop waiting for the right moment. You act. You move. You build. You become the version of yourself that others admire. But more importantly, you become the version of yourself you were always meant to be. Distractions are the silent killers of progress. They don't announce themselves with chaos or destruction. They slip in quietly, steal your focus, and leave you wondering where your time and energy went. If you want to move from procrastination to success, you must eliminate distractions and time wasters with ruthless intention. This means treating your focus like a sacred resource, something too valuable to squander on meaningless noise. In a world that constantly competes for your attention, success belongs to those who can guard it. The truth is, most people aren't lacking ambition. They're drowning in distractions. Their goals are buried under notifications, mindless scrolling, endless multitasking, and environments that encourage mediocrity instead of mastery. You cannot live an extraordinary life with an ordinary level focus. Every ping, every scroll, every unnecessary conversation chips away at the energy you need to build something great. If you spend hours reacting to content, chaos, and comparison, you are feeding your mind with clutter. That clutter leads to confusion, indecision, and ultimately, procrastination. Your environment plays a huge role in this. If your workspace is messy, your digital life is disorganized, and your social circle is full of people who drain your energy, you're fighting a battle before you even begin the real work. Success demands clarity, and clarity cannot thrive in chaos. You must build an environment that fuels your focus, not fractures it. Start by identifying your biggest time-wasting habits and being brutally honest. Is it your phone? Is it gossip? Is it binge-watching shows to escape the discomfort doing hard things? Whatever it is, cut it off at the root. Replace mindless consumption with intentional creation. Replace toxic people with growth-driven relationships. Replace distraction with structure. Create a system where focus becomes a default, not the exception. Use tools that support productivity calendars, timers, do not disturb modes, focus playlists, but more importantly, create boundaries that protect your priorities. Say no to what doesn't serve your vision. Say yes only to what moves the needle. Eliminating distractions also means mastering your inner dialogue. The biggest distraction is often the voice in your head that tells you it's okay to delay, that you got time, that one more break won't hurt. That voice is a liar. It's the voice of fear masquerading as logic. You must silence it with action. Not tomorrow. Now. Every time you choose focus over distraction, you are reinforcing the habits of a high performer. You are aligning your behavior with your vision. You are respecting your time, your potential, and your future. That alignment is what builds self-respect and momentum. And when you stack enough of those moments, you wake up one day in a life you built on purpose, not by chance. The truth is, success isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters most consistently. And you can't do what matters if you're constantly pulled in 100 different directions. Kill distraction. Guard your focus like your future depends on it, because it does. What you see in your mind, you begin to create in your life. That's the power of visualization, one of the most underutilized tools in transforming procrastination into success. Every great achievement begins in the mind before it ever shows up in the real world. Champions, leaders, and creators all understand this. If you can see it, feel it, and believe it internally, you'll start aligning your actions to make it real externally. Visualization isn't daydreaming. It's strategic mental rehearsal. It's training your brain to expect success, to normalize achievement, and to become emotionally connected to your future before it arrives. When done with intention and consistency, it becomes a force that fuels discipline, amplifies clarity, and drives action. Most people spend their time visualizing failure without realizing it. They imagine everything that could go wrong, every obstacle, every embarrassment. They replay mistakes and rehearse excuses. And then they wonder why they procrastinate and stay stuck. That internal dialogue becomes their operating system. But when you shift your focus and begin to visualize success daily with clarity and conviction, you rewire your mind. Your subconscious begins to interpret your vision as reality and starts filtering opportunities, behaviors, and decisions that align with that vision. You walk, talk, and act like the person you're becoming, not the person you've been. That shift is where true transformation begins. Visualization should be specific, not vague. Don't just see yourself being successful. Visualize the exact moment of success, what you're wearing, how you feel, who's with you, what sound you hear, and what environment surrounds you. Make it vivid and emotional. Emotion is a fuel that embeds that vision deep into your psyche. When you connect emotionally to your future, your present actions become purposeful. You start showing up for yourself at a higher level because you've already experienced a reward in your mind. And when your mind believes something is possible, your body starts moving as if it's inevitable. This practice also destroys the self-doubt that fuels procrastination. You no longer see success as some distant dream reserved for the lucky or the talented. You see it as your next reality. And that belief eliminates hesitation. It drives execution. It makes the uncomfortable tasks worth doing because you're anchored in something bigger than the momentary resistance. Visualization also acts as a compass. When you get distracted, discouraged, or tired, it pulls you back to your purpose. It reminds you what you're working for. It reignites the fire. Most importantly, visualization aligns your mind and body with intention. It brings clarity where there was once confusion. It brings focus where there was once chaos. It brings urgency where there was once delay. You don't become successful by accident. You design it first in your mind and then build it in your reality. When you visualize your success daily, you don't just wish for it. You live it, breathe it, and move toward it with unshakable certainty. Progress is the lifeblood of motivation. It's what keeps momentum alive when the goal still feels far away. Too often, people sabotage their journey by only celebrating the result, believing they're not successful until the outcome is achieved. But success is not a finish line, it's a process. It's built day by day, decision by decision, and step by step. When you learn to celebrate progress, not just results, you shift from being outcome-obsessed to becoming process-driven. And that shift changes everything. It keeps you mentally strong, emotionally grounded, and fully engaged in the work that matters. Waiting until the finish line to feel proud or fulfilled is a trap. It breeds frustration, burnout, and a constant feeling of not enough. It makes you blind to how far you've come because you're too focused on how far you still have to go. But when you begin to honor your progress, No matter how small, you activate one of the most powerful psychological forces: positive reinforcement. Every time you acknowledge a win, you're teaching your brain that your efforts are meaningful. That sense of reward strengthens your habits, boosts your confidence, and fuels your desire to keep going. It becomes a loop. Action leads to progress. Progress leads to celebration, and celebration leads to more action. Celebrating progress also rewires your relationship with failure. You stop seeing setbacks as proof that you're not good enough and start seeing them as part of the process. You understand that growth is not linear. Some days you'll fly, some days you'll crawl, but as long as you're moving forward, you're winning. This mindset builds resilience. It helps you stay committed when motivation fades and results feel distant. You realize that each tiny improvement, each effort made when you didn't feel like it, each time you chose discipline over comfort, that's success. That's who you're becoming. And that version of you is worth celebrating. When you focus only on results, you attach your worth to outcomes. When you focus on progress, you attach your worth to effort and growth. That creates emotional freedom. It allows you to be proud of yourself without waiting for external validation. It keeps you motivated in the long game because you're no longer chasing a single high. You're living in a state of continuous improvement. You start to find joy in the climb, not just the summit. This mindset doesn't just keep you consistent. It makes you dangerous. Because when you learn to find power in small wins, nothing can stop you. You no longer need permission to feel successful. You don't need to wait for the world to recognize your growth. You recognize it yourself. You own it. You build on it. And over time, those small wins stack up into a massive transformation. So celebrate every step. Honor every effort. Recognize that your progress is proof of your discipline, your courage, and your commitment to becoming your best self. Success is not an accident, nor is it reserved for the lucky few. It's the direct result of intentional living, focused action, and a refusal to settle for a life of procrastination and regret. The journey from hesitation to execution, from chaos to clarity, begins the moment you take full ownership of your mindset, your time, and your goals. It's about shifting from waiting to doing, from doubting to believing, and from dreaming to building. When you set purpose-driven goals, break them into actionable steps, and execute with unwavering discipline, you begin to see yourself not as someone who hopes for change, but as someone who creates it. Eliminating distractions, visualizing your future with clarity, and celebrating every small step forward are not optional. They are the building blocks of unstoppable momentum. Every action you take, no matter how small, is a vote for the future you desire. Procrastination dies the moment you decide to no longer be at war with your potential. So move with intention. Show up with purpose. Take control of your time, your habits, your vision, and transform your life from the inside out. The path is yours to walk. The power is already in your hands. Now rise and own it.